Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Shea Dixon. Shea, LSU defeats Auburn 48-18, in a game that, Death Valley was rocking, 100,000 people here. I thought it was an awesome environment, and it was an awesome performance once again from this LSU offense, who basically can wake up, get out of bed, and score 45, 50 points whenever it feels like it.
Brian Kelly said in the post-game press conference he was all smiles. We'll talk a little bit about that, but he basically was like, it's fun to coach this offense, but it's even more fun to just stand on the sidelines and watch them go up and down the field. And Jaden Daniels, another casual 400-plus yard night with his arm and his legs. That's expected. What you then get to mix in is, and a Logan Diggs 97-yard game is expected. He's done about 100 yards every week.
Yep.
But Kyron Lacey goes out there and drops the first pass he gets and came to the sidelines. And what did he tell Kelly? It was,
I owe you one. And Brian Kelly was like, no, you owe me two. And then, sure enough,
bang, bang, delivered two huge catch and runs. You called it. He was in his spring game bag.
Yes, he looked like spring game
Kyron Lacey.
Kyron Lacey.
But he finishes with 4 catches on 5 targets. So he had that one drop, but caught the other 4 balls. 111 yards. I believe that's a career best for him here. I'd have to double check. But had a touchdown as well, and that's great to see when you know what Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors are. And Neighbors had another 90-yard game, scored another touchdown, but you'd have to scroll down here, right? Like, whereas Brian Thomas caught 2 passes for 7 yards, and that's just he got 3 targets. Yeah. So it wasn't like he was completely shut down. They just did some other things. They ran the ball some, and they had balance. 325 passing yards, 238 rushing yards, 563 total, and they come up 2 cents short of 50 points. It's not too bad.
And this is against a defense that I said, and a lot of people said going in, was the best defense they had faced this year. This was an Auburn defense that, albeit has not had a tough schedule offensively, but Alabama and Texas A&M and Georgia on the schedule, I believe, ended the games averaging like 6.7, 6.8 yards per play. LSU was at 8.5 yards per play tonight, and that just shows, I think, the dominance, the level that this team is at, to be, a step above everybody else in the SEC. We see it day in, day out. The consistency, I think it's 6 straight games. I don't have the stat for me, but basically it's been 6 straight games of incredible offense. And you even go back to the Florida State game, first half, very good. Couldn't finish in the red zone. Second half got shut down. But, this offense this was a hurdle that this offense needed to get over, in my opinion. I had them scoring 31 points. I think I had 31-23 as the final, and they scored 48. There was never a point in which we were concerned about Auburn stopping them consistently, and even in the second quarter when they did it, a lot of it was self-inflicted. A lot of it was the penalties, or not being able to finish in the red zone. It was very much LSU and settled for a field goal or 2. That's what the standard is now, is to get in the end zone every time. So when they kick 2 field goals in the first half, it's like, oh, what's wrong?
They started the game touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal. So 4 straight drives, you get down there each time for points. And the only reason it was a 13-point game at halftime is because of those field goals. It would have been a complete blowout. And from there, they punted once. That was the Kyron Lacey drop. That drive could have been extended on a 3rd down.
Yep.
Then they have a pick where, and you had even written this in the pregame notes. Who was it from Auburn?
Yeah, Jalen Simpson. He had the same exact interception, I think, against Georgia on Carson Beck, and just jumps those middle of the field routes really well. He has 5 picks on the air.
I guess he didn't pick it.
No, but he broke. Yeah, I'm sorry. He broke the pass up. The ball went in the air.
Ball went just straight up in the air, and somebody else picked it off. But you have a pick there, and then it's halftime. They punted it back, and it was 1 second left. They just kneeled it out. They get the ball 4 times in the second half. They scored a touchdown on all 4 possessions. So you go into halftime, you say, guys, no more field goals. Let's turn those into touchdowns, and you get 4 chances. You score 4 touchdowns. Yeah. That's as efficient as you're going to get.
Yeah, and so that's why we go into halftime saying, all right, Auburn, on the other hand, I think we can flip. I don't have much more on the offense. Like we said, John Emery, Josh Williams got some carries. Aaron Anderson had a catch. Caleb Jackson had some awesome plays. But overall, it's always Jaden Daniels. 3rd down efficiency, 6 out of 9. And then first downs, which was a key coming into the game. I thought LSU was awesome on first downs as well. So Mike Denbrock, Jaden Daniels, entire offense continues to be amazing, perhaps the best in the country at this point. I know Washington had a great game this week. But, yeah, so we can flip it to defense if you want.
I think you can make a real argument, especially given that USC had some real struggles with Notre Dame and got blown out. Yeah. That, yes, Washington got a win over Oregon today, that LSU has the best offense in America. Like, it's one of 2 or 3 teams, and they're up there, if not number 1.
It's incredible.
But what we said was, is that all for naught? Because you got to play defense. And I don't know what I had. What did I predict? Maybe I thought that Auburn would get to 27 or 30. They don't even get past 20.
I don't remember what you had it as.
Point being, it was an absolute dominant, for LSU's defensive standards.
Yes.
A very dominant showing. What drive chart for Auburn, this is what I thought was impressive the first half. Punt, they give up a touchdown, and then punt to close out the half. That is their best half of football this season. I know they only allowed 1 touchdown against State in the first half. Grambling scored more than that in the first half, or at least got down there more. Yeah. So this would be their best first half of a season.
Yeah, I definitely would put it up there. This was, and it's, even the touchdown drive they had on the first in the first half was off of 2 pass interference calls on Zy Alexander, which, that's definitely chalked up to not being good enough on defense. But still, you had those 2, and then I don't remember how exactly they finished the drive, but it wasn't like it was some overwhelming, wow, they figured something out drive. It was, they threw the ball at Zy Alexander a couple times, got lucky. So defensively, we saw what we needed to see, I think, from the defensive line perspective. I thought it was weird Auburn came out and threw the ball on basically every play on the first 2 drives. They didn't run the ball until even on that touchdown drive, they threw it a lot. But they didn't run the ball very much at all in the first half, and I was wondering if that was going to change. In the second quarter, they showed a bit of life. I think they're averaging 5 yards per carry. They were just too far behind the 8 ball. You weren't going to keep pace with LSU at that point. So I did think that was weird. That kind of played into LSU's hands a little bit because coming into the game, I said Auburn's only chance was shorten the game. Jarquez Hunter, Brian Petit, let those guys run. Robbie Ashford, get those guys running, and they really didn't. So credit to LSU's defense, credit to LSU's front. I still think, obviously, there are holes, there's concerns, there's all the things you want, especially when holding them to a standard of how can this team beat Alabama, which, we're 3 weeks away at this point. But there are still question marks for me here, but it was good to see them take care of business.
And this is a team that won tonight 48-18, and it's not like they need turnovers. Like LSU turned it over once on a pick. Auburn didn't turn it over at all. They had a fumble, but they recovered it.
Yeah.
It was just straight up, you can punt it and make us go 75 yards, and we'll do it every time. And impressed by the defense. How about third down, though? 3 of 12 for Auburn.
Yeah.
Is Auburn not good, or did LSU take steps tonight?
It's both. And one more thing I want to point out is we talked about it, is Auburn had a couple short fields against Georgia, had a couple short fields against A&M. We said LSU's offense doesn't turn the ball over. They had the interception, but it was in Auburn territory. Auburn's best starting field position in this game was their own 25, which happened, I think, 6 or 7 times. You're obviously – and I think field position-wise, they've been put in good positions.
Well, remember I had that stat that
even Missouri –
Beatty or Beatty, their running back or backup running back who is their kickoff return man. They've played 5 games. He's had 4 games where he's taken one back for more than 30 yards. I think he took 1 out tonight, didn't get to the 25, and from there they just let it be. So shout out to special teams. Bramplett was solid.
Yes.
Bramplett was solid. Ramos made everything that he was asked to do, field goal and kick-wise. And shout out to your boy on kickoff returns.
Caleb Jackson.
You're a Caleb Jackson fan.
I should have stuck with it. After last week's game ball.
But you 60 yards on that return.
Dude. That's what Brian Kelly, when he was asked about it, he was like, we have Caleb Jackson back there, so maybe he'll pop one. And sure enough.
I at least like that on punt returns, they're just going to fair catch it or whatever and give it to the offense. At least on kick returns, they're kind of green lighting it sometimes. Like,
Caleb
go for
Jackson.
it.
Yes. Yeah.
Get ahead of steam. He had another highlight reel truck, too.
Yes.
And this time
incredible.
He kept going. He didn't stop.
Yes, he didn't stop.
Look at the guy.
He didn't stop. He is incredible, though.
But defensively, I did want
Yeah.
to say before we move on, 25 guys had a tackle tonight. That's obviously a blend of special teams as well, but
Yeah.
25 different guys had a tackle. Brian Kelly said he was proud of the defense overall. What was it? It was almost like he felt like they kept changing what they want to do, putting guys in new position, asking guys to do new things, rotating new guys in, and he felt like now they're settled in to where guys are playing, know their roles, know the expectations. Is Auburn's offense great? No. Statistically, it's one of the worst in the SEC. But run game wise, they entered this game top 3. Jarquez Hunter did nothing. That was like a key to the game for you was Jarquez Hunter. If he gets his, they could keep it close. He finished with 16 yards.
Yeah.
On 7 carries.
Yeah. Jarquez Hunter, Brian Battie, Robbie Ashford. Auburn ends the game with 4.1 yards per carry. That's a stat. That's a really good effort. That's that's better than what Georgia did against Auburn, and A&M. I think it was like 3.7, 3.8, something like that. So that is the standard now of competing with A&M, competing with Alabama. You're gonna have to defensively be able to stop the run better than what they've done to this point in the season, and they pretty much did. Now, I do understand why Hugh Freeze came out trying to throw the ball, because I still think if this was a capable offense, they would have completed more passes, obviously. They would have been a little bit more dynamic. I mean, Peyton Thorne ends the game with 102 yards passing. It's now been, 3 straight SEC games where they have been pretty abysmal throwing the football. So I don't want to take anything away from the secondary, but I don't think this was a good evaluation of how if the secondary is better than what it was. I do think this is a fair evaluation from the front 6, front 7, though. Yeah. That's where I have a positive takeaway.
They did very well. Kelly said shout out to Zy Alexander, who gave up some plays, and then right after that got called for a pass interference, so it kind of like allowed Auburn to go like 60 yards on plays that were just on him, and then he turns around and what Kelly said, he felt like he had a really good game overall. So solid showing there. Before we jump into some final things, we do want to, as we do each week, My Perfect Franchise. You guys know Andy Ludicky. My Perfect Franchise is the spot to go if you're getting into or want to just know more about becoming a franchisee, getting into the business of franchises. And as Andy says, this is the motto. Are you ready to leave the corporate rat race for the American dream? Is it a side hustle that you want to do while you can keep working your current job? Is it just diversifying your portfolio, by building a little more wealth? Is it leaving something for your kids? All of that Andy can help with. He's a franchise consultant. He owns multiple franchises. And this is what he does every day, 7 days a week. Helps people find franchises that fit your skill set. No financial requirements. It's 100% free for his services. You can call him at 404-973-9901. That's 404-973-9901. That's Andy Ludicky, and email him, andy@myperfectfranchise.net, or just go check out myperfectfranchise.net. Browse around, see what you make of it, and again, his services are free. So, like he said, he's there to help. If you have questions about any sort of business ownership involving becoming, again, either a franchise owner or franchisee to some degree with a side hustle. He's there, and a number of Bengal Tiger subscribers have already linked up and gotten things rolling with him. So shout out to Andy, shout out to all you guys, and Matty B, as we wrap up, they're tarping the field in Tiger Stadium. I don't know what they're up to. They're also blowing air under the tarp.
Yeah, like filling it up.
I don't know what they're up to out there. Surprise concert coming before the Army game, I guess. But I did want to say, well, let's do 2 things. Predicting the game balls. I went Jaden Daniels. You went Brian Thomas.
Damn.
You fail of a pick there by you. You didn't do anything. I win.
You do win.
I win this one on Jaden. Easiest pick.
Should have gone with Kyron Lacey.
I went Greg Penn on defense at linebacker. You went Mekhi Wingo. I'm not sure who we give it to here. Is there anyone who really...
Paris Shand probably... He was the most outstanding as far as wow.
He didn't start, but he leads the team in tackles for loss. He had
I think he had a batted pass.
Yep. It was a nice pass breakup. Finishes with 6 tackles, which puts him inside the top 4 on LSU's defense today.
Yeah.
But also Harold Perkins.
Yes.
And really one drive of Harold Perkins where on first down he makes the stop for like a 5-yard gain. Second down he hurries the pass. Third down he just
blows it up.
Blitzes and completely blows it up. On a very good play design where Harold sort of followed the running back out, so they thought he was in coverage with him. But it was Andre Sammer, the safety, rolling down to cover, and Robbie Ashford never saw it coming. Harold tore him apart. But
those are the two.
Harold does this thing normally, so let's give that to Paris Shan.
Yeah. Congratulations, Paris.
Way to go, Paris.
Good job.
That's a transfer from Arizona.
Well, what was Mekhi Wingo's final stats? I thought he played a solid game. He had a nice TFL. That was my pick. Damn, all the way down there.
Two solo, two tackles, two solo, a sack, and a TFL.
Yeah. So, I wouldn't give it to him. But
Sage Ryan had, they only had 2 sacks. Harold and then Mekhi.
Yeah.
So we'll give it to Paris.
Yes.
Dybert and Bramblett were our guys on special teams. I'm not sure if there's...
Bramblett only punted once, right? Twice?
Bramblett punted once. It was a 44-yarder.
I mean, between those two,
Ramos made both his field goal, but that's 6 points.
Caleb Jackson.
You won by 30. Let's give it to Caleb Jackson. He had a 60-yard return.
We finally had somebody who
one
returned
return
a
on
kick.
the night, and he took it for 60 yards.
Yes,
so
a pulse on kick return, any type of return game is welcome for this LSU team. That's because, yes, on one hand, the offense can do it by themselves. They don't need the help of a punt returner or a kick returner getting them free yards or these field position inside the other opponent's territory. But in games like Alabama and Texas A&M, that could be the difference. If Caleb Jackson returns a ball to the 45 instead of the 25, that's 20 yards. That could be the difference between 7 and 3. I mean, that is huge, and I can't see teams continuing to kick to him. Not saying he's been some super consistent, breakout guy like an Odell Beckham or something, but he's capable, and I think teams are starting to realize that, and I think that's big.
Well, again, and he's 220-something probably now. He's 218 in high school. Yeah. He was running sub 10.5, so not only do you have the speed, but he just wants to run you right over.
Arm tackles aren't getting him either.
No,
I think
he's running right through that. He's an absolute – I remember when he was in middle school coming into Liberty, shout out –
throwback.
I typed with one of his coaches, shout out Brian, but – he would be sending workout videos going into 9th grade, be like, this dude's out lifting everyone on our team. And you can see it. You ain't arm tackling him. He's going to run right by you. Let's wrap up with this. LSU is 5-2 overall. You've got losses out of conference to Florida State, but obviously since then they've gone on a 4-1 run, the other loss being Ole Miss in a shootout. But 4-1 in the conference. To update you on the West race, 3 teams now have not won a game yet in the SEC, Auburn being one of them, Arkansas and Mississippi State. LSU has played all 3 of those teams already. So you've gotten through the bottom of the SEC West. You still have Florida on tap. They've 3-1 in the conference, 5-2 overall, but that's on the east side. Bama 4-0 in conference, the only team who has not lost a conference game, but 6-1 overall. They got a close win today over Arkansas. LSU and Arkansas played close as well.
Yep.
As I mentioned, LSU's 5-2 overall, 4-1 in conference, and Ole Miss 5-1 overall, 2-1 in conference, and obviously they did get a win over LSU. Brian Kelly said tonight, though, that hey, look, with what we have in front of us, we control our destiny here, and he said, I'll put us up against any team in the SEC right now. If we are rolling like this on offense and have a pulse on defense and we execute like we did in special teams, is what he was saying, that he said confidently, I'll put it up against anybody.
I mean, A&M today loses at Tennessee.
So that's the other thing. So A&M is now 2-2,
yes.
And they're 4-3 overall. A&M has not had a 10-win season since 1998, I think it was, or 99. It's been more than 20-something years. One 10-win season. It was the one of Johnny Manziel's years was a 10. And then
the COVID season,
year,
they went 9-1.
They went 9-1. If I'm going to I'll give it to you. I said that on Game Day Ready. I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
2 10-win seasons in more than 20 years.
Yeah.
Yes, they recruited a high level, but boy, is patience thin for Jimbo now. It's no longer we're almost there. They're in year 6. LSU had 3 of their commitments on campus today, so we could see some shakeup coming on the recruiting trail. Stick around, me and Billy will talk about that.
I was gonna say that's a good plug. It's a good
plug.
Tease. That's the word.
We may do a little emergency pod tomorrow just to talk recruiting weekend. This was a huge recruiting weekend. They had so many guys in, more than 15 top 150 prospects were here, including Bryce Underwood, the #1 overall player.
Bryce Underwood on the
Harlan Berry,
Jumbotron.
DeCorian Moore. Oh, yeah, they were having a blast swag surfing. But, yes, that is notable with A&M's loss today. That puts them very much behind the 8 ball if you're racing for the West. But LSU still has Bama in front of them. They've got Florida, and they do play A&M. But Army's up next and Georgia State. So it's not like there's 5 SEC games left.
It's a weird
You've got 3
situation.
SEC games left to go, and you only go on the road once. And it's to Bama, and it's to I don't know if you say like beatable, or it's not like the Bama that ran everyone over for 10 years. This Bama team, like most normal teams, has weaknesses and has things where you can take advantage of. In addition to strengths, their defense is amazing. Milrose settling in, obviously. They've got an awesome kicker in Will Reichert. But as we continue to move forward, I would agree with the standings now. I think LSU and Bama are the 2 best teams in the West.
It's a 2-team race. I mean, that's...
And Ole Miss is in it.
Ole Miss is in it, 2-1. Who do they have left? Because I'm pretty sure they haven't played any. They played Arkansas.
They play Auburn, Vandy, A&M, Georgia, and State.
Yeah. I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they struggled.
Let's just be LSU has to win out.
LSU has to win out. That's the bottom line. Like, LSU is going to have to win out, which obviously includes beating Alabama. So, even if you beat Alabama, and there's a 3-way tie, obviously, with Ole Miss, then that would create some problems. I have not thought that far because I don't think Ole Miss is going to run the table because they play Georgia in that stretch. So, anyways, the winner of LSU-Alabama pretty much is going to Atlanta.
Is the best bet.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's what this comes down to. Now, there are 3 weeks from tonight. We will be in Tuscaloosa watching LSU and Alabama play for the SC West. And it's, like you said, the schedule is so weird because it's basically Army by Alabama. And, Army just lost to Troy, and it was 19-0. I mean, Army should be a relatively easy game where you put it away in the first half. And so we're looking at there's not much after this game that you really have to sweat. Now it's getting Emory Jones healthy. It's getting
sprained ankle.
Yeah, it's getting Chris Hilton healthy. Like, it's getting everybody. I mean, Jane Daniels, obviously, even though he's healthy, get him rested. So it sets up very, very nicely for this LSU team to be healthy, comfortable, going to Alabama in what is the biggest game of the season.
We can close it out with this. Brian Kelly said it a year ago when they reached Atlanta. He said, October's for pretenders, November's for contenders. And they've got Army, which is a game they will win. They should very much win. And then a bye week. And then you're in November, and you're absolutely in contention for the West again, for a potential chance to meet up with a team like Georgia, who looks more beatable than they did the prior 2 years that they've gone back-to-back as national champions. But we're not getting ahead of ourselves too much here. But that's the reality. It is. You beat Army, you go to a bye, you're in November, and everything's still on the table in terms of the West and a New Year's Six Bowl, which were 2 things that I said should be goals for this team.
Yeah, because this is the end of a treacherous stretch of games where even though, the only loss was to Ole Miss, I mean, it's been SEC for 5 straight weeks and without a bye week. And now you go to a bye week and say, all right, we have 2 games in front of us, Alabama and Texas A&M. We gear everything in preparation for those 2 games. It is such a weird situation. Obviously, SEC always has those late game, like 1 late game non-conference game. But now with 2 and a bye week, we're looking at the last 6 weeks as being Alabama, Florida, A&M. That's all that matters. And so it is a unique situation. It's one I'm really interested to see how they approach. And like I said, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but man, that game in Tuscaloosa is going to be something. That's going to be something. Because Alabama doesn't even need to be perfect. They just need to beat LSU that year, like in that game. And they could, in theory, Alabama could lose to Auburn at the end of the year. But if they beat LSU, it doesn't matter. So
Tennessee goes to Bama next weekend.
Man, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, but again, if both Alabama and LSU enter that game with a loss, it still doesn't change anything. Like, the winner of that is going to Atlanta, unless Ole Miss
rolls out,
goes crazy. So, all right, anything else?
Good for me.
All right, 25 minutes.
30-point win.
30-point win. Shea will have 48
no,
things on.
Absolutely not.
That would have been crazy for this year. Last year it was doable because you'd have like
Sometimes.
13, 20.
I think I did a game I think I did did I do a 70 something?
Yeah, you
last
did
year?
something with like
ridiculous.
Southern, I think. So, but Shea, we have plenty on the site though, so go check all that out. The Bengal Tiger On3 still $1 for a month.
It is $1 for a month,
So there
and
you
boy, the recruiting and team. Not only is the team heating up right now, obviously, but recruiting's heating up.
Yes.
So, number 8 class in the country. Can they get any higher? Can they start flipping some guys? Can they land some more 2024 commits? I think we're going to know answers to all that in the coming weeks and months. So, should be an exciting lead up to December. Both
Yes.
Atlanta and the early signing period.
Yes. And check out the recruiting podcast on Tuesday. We'll have mailbag on Monday. So thank y'all for joining us, and we will talk to y'all later.